We have a number of so-called separatist, or in fact separatist organizations in Western Canada. The West Fed Association, its principal advocate here is an out-of-work PR man, and he's backed by oil money from Calgary. Then we've got the Western National Association, realtor, a 54-year-old realtor, claims lots of members. I remember when they tried to get a politician to run as their frontman a couple of years ago, and he wanted $100,000 up front. And then we have the Western Canada Separatist Party, going under the disguised name, for some strange reason, of the Western Canada concept. Doug Christie, Victoria lawyer, who was hazarded to the roof by 2,700 people in, where was it, Edmonton?
Edmonton.
Edmonton, and has come back convinced that he's going to be the charismatic leader to smash this country. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I think you're wrong in many scores, Jack, but you're always entertaining, so I'll just let you carry on.
Tell me something. Are you a separatist?
Oh, I believe in the independence of Western Canada, and I'm probably one of the only people who has, for the last 5 years, maintained this same position.
At the time when you could hold a meeting of your organization in the telephone box.
As Bryce Mackesy said, that was his suggestion, but it wasn't true. We've always had considerable support, and more now, because people realize. After the last election, one Liberal west of the Red River demonstrates that we don't count politically. The budget demonstrates that Alberta can be singled out for an unusual attack. And the constitutional proposals indicate a veto forever for Quebec and Ontario, and they also indicate equalization payments forever and entrenching the French language forever, all of which was never approved of by us in the West. I think it's about time we had a choice, Jack.
It was. The entrenching of the language was approved by all political parties in the House of Commons,
yes,
except for a rump group of MPs, Tory MPs.
Oh, you're talking about the Official Languages Act.
The Official Languages Act was the basic concept of the entrenchment, now being delivered in a kind of milk and water way into Trudeau's Constitution.
Well, that's a different situation. The Parliament of Canada passed a bill called the Official Languages Act, but they could undo that tomorrow. But when Trudeau puts it in the Constitution as inherently the right of every Canadian all across the country, it's a very different thing. And it means that if it's to be changed, Quebec must approve. And I don't think the West understands the implications of that. Trial in the French language, do you know what that means?
Yes, trial in the French language means that a Canadian with basic language as French would have a trial in French, whatever reasonable.
Oh yes,
possible.
A French judge, a French jury, a French prosecutor, a French clerk, French speaking.
How would
everybody.
you like it if it were the other way around?
If I was in Quebec, I would expect to speak French. And if they're in the rest of Canada, they should speak English.
You're a bit of a bigot.
Oh, I object to that, Jack. It's been used too many times. And
No,
very shallow description.
Surely
Is James Richardson a bigot?
I would say he's very close to it.
Is that right? Well, you throw the word around rather loosely.
No, with the worst will in the world, I say that with my worst will in the world towards Trudeau,
yes,
I would say that it's so cleverly written that there still is an area which would be decided by the courts where it was usable or not.
I don't know if that's the case, especially when they're all federally appointed courts.
Okay, Doug, let's start again. Tell me in simple language why I should become a separatist and what it would mean to me.
Well, it would mean that we could double pensions and double social benefits without increasing tax by keeping the resource revenues in the land from which the resources come.
Okay, let me stop right there. We could double pensions, we could double social security, because we would no longer share any of our newfound wealth with the rest of the country.
It's not newfound, it's newly developed. Yes, that's correct. And why we shouldn't share is because it's going down like sand down a rat hole to the federal deficit, which is growing by leaps and bounds and is only kept in line by exploiting Western exhaustible resources.
All right, what was in the budget that's going to make me unhappy? I'm really quite pleased when I see Trudeau Lalonde, who is the real architect, saying...
Arch-villain.
Architect, arch-villain, I don't care, was saying that we are going to Canadianize some of these multinational oil companies who will rip us off forever.
No, sir, the oil companies are not ripping us off. They're getting a small percentage in comparison to what the governments take. And I hope you realize that the price of a gallon of gasoline is 65% government tax. The rest is the profit, allegedly, of an oil company who takes the risk and invests the money.
What is the share of a barrel of gasoline?
Where would the oil be if the oil companies hadn't developed the resource?
Agreed entirely. I'm all for free enterprise up to a point. 45 cents to the provincial government.
Well,
correct?
There's disputes over those figures, but I think you're right.
33 cents to the 45 to feds, 33 cents to provincial, and 22 to the feds. That's it, isn't it?
No, I think that the last figure is if I'm understanding it correctly, is to the oil company.
No. It's 45 to the provincial government, 33 to the oil companies and 22 to the feds.
Well, I have different figures, but
Well, your figures are wrong, but that's beside
fine,
the point.
all right.
That's quite beside the point. You're telling me that I can have double pensions, double social benefits, if we keep all the wealth in the 4 western provinces.
In the land from which the resources come, the revenues should remain.
Has Canada not, and I say this in a nice way, has Western Canada never received, in the bad old days, any benefits from the central treasuries?
No.
No?
No. The Blackman
Not the
report,
crow's nest freight rates?
that's got nothing to do with intergovernmental transfers of funds. In fact, it's more expensive to ship manufactured goods from the west to the east than it is from the east to the west. That keeps Ontario and Quebec happy, liberal, and federal.
Okay, what else? Come on now. How are we going to do this separation? Are we going
We'll
to
have a referendum in each province. We don't think that necessarily separation will be accomplished. Just give the people of British Columbia and Alberta and Saskatchewan a choice before we're inflicted forever with a federal Trudeau liberal constitution that we never chose and never elected the government to give us.
You are a long-time born Canadian of some generations.
Several, yes. My great-grandfather fought in the Fenian raids. He was given a farm in Ontario for having defended Canada. My grandfather fought in the First World War in the trenches. My father fought in the Second World War. He was a tail gunner in the RCAF.
And yet, in a cold-blooded, crassly materialist
Not at all. No.
interpretation, you
No.
say, money talks, let's split the country.
No, it's not a matter of money. It's a matter of self-government and pride. And we in the West have never had a right to have influence in the government of Canada. It's about time we were given an opportunity to decide whether we want that forever or not.
Let's say that again. We in the West have
Yo-
never had a right to influence the government in Ottawa. Have I got it correctly?
Well, I think the record should speak for itself. I've said it.
Don't we have a free parliamentary...
We have 78
system with
seats in Western
elections?
Canada, 95 from Ontario and 75 from Quebec. And you know, the last election was decided before they even counted a vote west of the Lakehead.
Don't I know it? I was on
And
the
consequently, why do we bother voting? Why do our MPs go to Ottawa? They should come home and work for a living and get off their index pensions. The only reason they stay there and babble in Ottawa is primarily to keep themselves in a job. And I think it's a disgrace that they pretend they can speak for Western Canada.
All right, to put your case even more clearly for you, what you object to with the redistribution of population to the West...
Demographic
is
surveys indicate the population's not coming to the West. The front end of the vacuum cleaner's coming west.
Yeah, well, fair enough, that's a good line, but what you object to is the fact that Quebec and Ontario, with their preponderance of seats and votes, have always run this country.
That's right. For the last 100 years, we had no regional representation. If we had a regionally elected Senate in the beginning, we wouldn't have had the Mirabel Airport, the World's Fair, the Olympic Games, bilingualism, handouts to Ford and Chrysler Motor Corporation, protective tariffs for Algoma Steel and Sault Ste. Marie, and 100 other things that have been unjust to the West. And I don't think you even begin to cope with the problem when you call us bigots.
Many of these particular aspects you're right on. But what I don't understand about you, Doug, in all sincerity, and not being abrasive and nasty, is that for the sake of adjustments, you're prepared to split the country.
There's no way that adjustments will be made. The government is very close to ramming a constitution down our throat. We have no power for the next 4 years to do anything. Peter Lougheed, all he can do is boycott the constitutional talks because he knows that it's totally unjust from the beginning and they can't win.
Except that you get, you and other separatists get no aid and comfort from Lougheed.
Well, what can he do? His hands are tied.
Why are they tied?
Because he's outnumbered federally, and he has no hope in the court process.
So therefore he's willing, you would interpret, to take his lumps at the wrong end of a federal state, but he's not prepared to go separatist.
Well, that's his decision, and he's
Nor
gonna
is
have
Bennett.
Well, he's going to have to listen to the people.
Can you
and
name
we're going
me-
to try to educate the people as to what's
How many
really
members
going
do you
on.
have now?
I don't count them, Jack. How many do the Liberals have? I'm well aware of
They could
many
produce
thousands.
cards, but you're aware of thousands of adherents?
That's right.
1,000?
More than that.
10,000?
I don't know.
How many did you get out to your last public meeting in Vancouver? 50?
We never invited anybody. That was an academic seminar, and I found it amusing that the province decided that it was a meeting of ours. I was asked to speak at some academic seminar, and all of a sudden they say it's a separatist meeting. It turned out that I convinced most of the crowd, who happened to be there, 50 people, not because we invited them, because they were there.
Doug, you're still doing your legal practice.
I'm trying to survive, like a lot of other people.
Do you find that people turn away from you now that you've really stated your case bluntly?
I'm
as a
prepared,
spectator?
always have been, Jack, to pay the price for my principles.
Doug Christie, Western Canada, what's it called?
Concept. Birth. New birth.
Western Canada Conception.
Well, you can call it if you like, but its name is concept. An idea
An idea.
whose time has come.
Separatist idea.
Self-determination.
Separatist.
Independence.
Separatist.
Call it whatever you like, Jack.
But you say separatist. It's easier to
If
understand.
you wish to call it separatist, then you may do so.
You don't want it.
I call it justice.
Separatist justice.
Well, self-determination.
How
Going round and round.
how much would you pay for your share of the national institutions?
A per capita portion.
After the break. The target for the telephone calls has changed. I don't know if the phone calls have changed, but I now expect you to address yourself to Doug Christie of the Western Canada Concept. I keep thinking of birth control pills. Have I any calls for Dougie? Gladys? Go ahead to Doug Christie.
Oh, yes.
What do you make of him?
Well, I have a question to ask about what would his stand be in the case of defense? Would he take a separatist stand?
Would you fight for Canada, he's telling you?
I would certainly be prepared to say that Western Canada will have a viable defense force, far better than the Canadian government today is providing for Canada as a whole. We'll be good allies with the United States and members of NATO and NORAD. I think that's what we would want.
Don't you think there's a grave danger if we ever, God forbid, did split up east to west in some way?
Don't cut me off, Jack.
No, I'm not going to cut you off. That we'd be swallowed up between here and Alaska by the United States?
I have no fear of the United States taking any force against us, and I don't think they would desire to do anything else either. I think we'd be good friends, and I think good free trading partners, but we don't want their form of government any more than we do Ottawa's domination.
Okay, go ahead, caller.
Well, no, as far as, I would, first of all, I recommend he not be the captain of my infantry if I was a private. But in terms of defense, his stand is absolutely ridiculous. You know, we've got to come together somewhere.
Thank you very much. Go ahead to Doug Christie.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Webster.
Morning.
This question, I have a question and a point for Mr. Christie. The first one is, speaking in terms of an Albertan, because that is where I'm from, when Quebec wanted to separate from the rest of Canada, they wanted to share a common dollar and a common economy with the rest of Canada. In a sense, isn't that what Alberta has done already, and they're just not telling any of the other provinces? So I guess they have separated. And the second point is, if Alberta and Western separatism actually did take place, isn't it a more serious question? It's not a breakup of Western Canada, but wouldn't that actually split Canada into 4 separate pieces? Western Canada, Ontario, Quebec, and the eastern provinces?
I think that's probably an accurate assessment of what would happen if Alberta chose independence. We're saying that each province should have the right to choose because never before have they been asked whether they want to be part of Canada or not.
But you can't just take a nation which has been 100 and odd years and suddenly say, do you want to split up?
Well, it wasn't created by God, Jack. It was created by men. There isn't a single reference to any divine purpose for Canada.
I get kind of sick and tired of this business of provincial rights, because if we don't have I don't mean all the little things, but if we don't have a central government, we don't have a country.
Well, unless we had a ratification of this central government by the people of the various regions, then how can it be right and fair and just?
Because it's been there for 100 odd years.
And it's never worked fairly for the West. Since 1870 or 1885, there's always been grievance in the
Things are
West.
a hell of a lot better now than they were even when I came here in 47.
A lot worse for the West.
Go ahead, please. Hello, where are you?
Yes, I'm here. Mr. Christie, with you 100%.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, please. Go on, you're next. I was too quick in them, I thought.
I suppose.
Didn't mean to be.
That's all right.
Go ahead, please.
Hello?
That's you, sir. That's you.
Yes, is it me?
Uh-huh.
Hello? Is that Mr. Christie?
Hello, how are you this morning?
Fine. Doug Christie, I want to know why you want to change the name to call it West Canada. Why don't you just call it the Dominion of Canada, and let those Easterners call themselves the Republic of Canada?
Good. Thanks very much. We'll leave that one alone. That's not capable of being looked after at all, that call.